2022. What a strange year for Chinese movies. The first half of the year saw some massive releases, but the second half has seen those releases slow to a crawl, with over a dozen big movies delayed for a variety of reasons. As is tradition, we're going to look at the top 10 highest grossing Chinese movies at the box office for 2022, but we have a few caveats. This list only features Chinese movies, including Hong Kong co-productions. This means no American films, and for the first time in a while, there hasn't been a Marvel movie in the top 10. For the record, Jurassic World 3 at 7th and Avatar 2 at 9th are the only international movies who made the original top 10 list for 2022. The totals only include the Chinese box office, and not any income these movies made in their international releases. And obviously, it includes movies only released in the cinema. We're going to provide a small review of each movie if we've seen it, so let's get cracking with number 10. This movie was released on New Year's Eve in 2021, thus its first day total of 267 million RMB is not counted in the total of 669 million presented on the screen, which is the total amount this movie made in 2022 only. One of the many movies made about the pandemic, this one is actually set in Wuhan and tells the tale of a few people who work hard to help out society during the initial lockdown period. Pandemic movies reached their fatigue limit with this film being the last movie about the topic to actually make any money at the Chinese box office. A decent cast in this one included Huang Bo, Dong Yuzhao, and Jia Ling wasn't enough to save this movie from being just a ho-hum piece of propaganda that everyone saw right through. It had its heart in the right place, but nothing else. Too long and too fantastical for its own good, this movie completely misjudged the audience's desire to watch movies about the pandemic and has only made the top 10 list due to the removal of the two American titles. Yet another movie that only made the top 10 due to the removal of the two American films Avatar 2 and Jurassic World 3, Warriors of Future is the first of two Hong Kong co-productions on this list. Releasing on the 5th of August, 2 weeks before its Hong Kong release and during the start of yet another wave of lockdowns in China, this movie didn't make as much money as it could have had the cinema experience been back to normal. Eventually picked up for a worldwide release by Netflix, this Louis Koo-led sci-fi flick was 6 years in the making and was already delayed by 2 years for a variety of reasons including the pandemic, investors, and having to rework some visual effects. The end product is a fun yet unoriginal sci-fi film taking cues and adding references from more well-known sci-fi and superhero films. But don't let that stop you. This was Louis Koo's passion project and it shows, with lots of big set pieces and shootouts to keep action junkies pretty satisfied. The second of the Hong Kong co-productions on this list is a spiritual sequel to the brilliant film Mad Detective from 2007. Released at a time when audiences were desperate for an entertaining film that wasn't a folk drama or war propaganda piece, this movie had a decent first weekend at the box office, but poor word of mouth quickly took care of any earning potential it could have had. And with good reason. This is a rather poor film with a scattered plotline that moves at a breakneck pace and barely makes sense. Not even the talents of Sean Lau, who was also in Warriors of Future, could save this one, and in the end we have a movie that feels more like a comedy than a thriller. The first of 4 movies in a row that we haven't seen is this 8th movie in the long-running and very popular Boonie Bears movie and TV series. These movies normally release on Chinese New Year, where the desire for parents to find a safe, family-friendly movie for them and their children is of major importance. This is also the first of 4 Chinese New Year movies to make this list, a rather impressive feat but only possible due to the fact that most of the bigger movies of 2022, including the popular October national holiday period, didn't release, making this movie's appearance on this list more of an anomaly than an expectation. The first of 2 Jackson Yee movies on this list, and the second we haven't seen and also released during Chinese New Year. This movie was predicted to be big, with Jackson Yee's name being the draw card expected to drag millions into the cinema, but it seems his fan base might have preferred his other film. It also suffered from terrible word of mouth, absolutely tanking after its opening weekend, with the other drama film released at the same time, Only Fools Rush In, bombing harder than this. and with good reason. This movie sounds more depressing than entertaining, which is a must for Chinese New Year period. People want to watch positive good news stories, and this movie didn't want to deliver anything remotely close to that. This is a movie we want to see, but haven't had the chance to yet due to the current lack of English subtitles. The only movie from the Chinese National Day holiday period to make the top 10 list, and it's worth remembering that the movie that was predicted to be the bigger hit of the period, the Air Force action film Born to Fly, which shares more than a passing resemblance to Top Gun, was pulled at the last minute, meaning that this film pretty much had the whole holiday period to itself. But it wasn't an action film, which is what people wanted. It was a drama thriller that was based on a true story of an extraction mission in North Africa of a handful of Chinese citizens. Reviews for this film have been mostly positive, with some comparing it to the 2021 Korean film Escape from Mogadishu. We will let you know once we get a chance to see this, unless you've seen it of course, in which case please feel free to leave a comment below. Another movie we haven't seen yet, but if we're honest, we're not too keen on this one. Although having said that, the success this movie achieved is rather unexplainable, so perhaps it's worth watching to find out why. It was released mid-year, during a time of yet another movie drought, and I'm not sure people just go to the movies for the sake of it, even if they aren't interested in the film's showing. This movie is about a man released from prison after serving his time and gets a job as a funeral director who crosses paths with a young girl who changes his life forever, apparently. Zhu Yilong, who is pretty well known outside of China, leads the way in this film, but he isn't your typical crowd attraction like Jackson Yee would be. Reviews for the film though are overwhelmingly positive, even on English language websites, citing this as a movie about finding purpose in life. Perhaps that's exactly what was needed after the barrage of depressing pandemic films. Every year the top 10 list throws up a surprise edition, and for this list it's definitely this movie. The third of 4 Chinese New Year movies, this movie exploded like a bullet at the box office. It's amazing when you consider that its opening day total was only 214 million RMB, but the exceptional word of mouth helped this movie reach third place, and it ended up staying on cinema schedules longer than the next 2 films on this list. And with good reason, the movie is a riotously good time. A struggling actor is hired in what appears to be his big movie break. Except little does he know he's actually being set up by a popular actress and her brother to help them escape from a dangerous group of gangsters. This is a very stylish and beautifully presented movie with genuine comedy moments, featuring actor Wei Xiang, who until this movie had only ever been cast as part characters in previous movies. Proving that he can definitely hold the lead actor role, expect to see him in more movies in the future. Of all the movies on this top 10 list, this is the one we would recommend for you to watch without hesitation. This movie was expected to be big, but I don't think too many saw this movie's massive success coming. The second movie in a row starring comedian Ma Li, this time teaming up with her longtime collaborator and business partner Shen Ten, this movie is based on a Korean webtoon of the same name. An engineer working on the moon is left behind after a rapid emergency evacuation takes off without him on board. He watches on as a meteorite destroys the Earth. Thinking he is the last man alive, he takes solace with a kangaroo who was also left behind on the moon with him until one day the survivors of planet Earth make contact with him. And just in time too, as another meteorite is on a collision path with the Earth again. Huge opening weekend and massive crowds. This movie courted some controversy when stories appeared on the internet of ticket sales of other movies being issued under the name of this film, overinflating the actual number of attendees. Our opinion of this film wasn't that great though. At over 2 hours long, there are periods of the movie where nothing happens, dragging it down and making you wish you were watching something else. It also lacks the signature comedy you'd expect from a Shen Ten movie, but on the flip side, it's definitely a refreshing change in the top 10 when you consider the next film. The sequel to 2021's biggest Chinese movie ends up being 2022's biggest Chinese movie too, although it made significantly less money at the box office than the original, almost 1.6 billion RMB less. But it was enough to push this movie into 8th position in the top 10 highest grossing movies of all time in China. Picking up from where the previous movie left off, almost the entire cast, including Jackson Yi, team back up with Wolf Warrior Wu Jing to continue their fight in the Korean War, this time defending Watergate Bridge from US forces. Unlike the first movie, this is all about action. Massive CGI-based set pieces litter the film, where Chinese soldiers are shown underpowered and eating frozen potatoes, while American troops are shown getting drunk during their Christmas celebrations. What a juxtaposition. And this movie isn't as good as the first one. Clearly the audience agreed, as it couldn't match the original's box office success. But when you consider that both movies combined earned a total of 9.8 billion RMB, we'd say the producers of the film are classing this as a massive success either way. Thank you for watching this yearly video about the highest grossing Chinese movies in the Chinese box office. We hope you enjoyed this year's installment. Which movies have you seen and what did you think of them? Which ones do you want to see? Leave a comment below with your answer, press like on the video and subscribe to keep up to date with more Asian movie news, trailers and reviews here on Asian Film Fans.